Yeah, so we missed a little bit of that. So we finished up, like we said the other night, the remonstrance written by Madison. And this is, and then the bill failed. And then another act was passed December 26, 1785, an act of establishing religious freedom. And it's written by Thomas Jefferson. So I hope you guys are okay that I reread this real quick. So well aware that Almighty God hath created the mind free, that all attempts to influence by its temporal punishments or burdens, or by civil incapacitations, tend only to beget habits of hypocrisy and meanness, and are a departure from the plan of the holy author of our religion, who being Lord both of body and mind, yet chose not to propagate it by coercion on either body or mind, as was in his almighty power to do, that the impious presumption of legislators and rulers, civil as well as ecclesiastical, who being themselves but fallible and uninspired men, have assumed dominion over the faith of others, setting up their own opinions and modes of thinking as the only true and infallible, and as such, endeavoring to impose them on others, have established and maintained false religions over the greatest part of the world and through all time. That to compel a man to furnish contributions of money for the propagation of opinions which he disbelieves is sinful and tyrannical. That our civil rights have no dependence on our religious opinions more than on our opinions in physics or geometry. That therefore the proscribing any citizen as unworthy the public confidence by laying upon any citizen unworthy the public confidence by laying upon him in incapacity of being called to the offices of trust and emolument, unless he professes or renounce this or that religious opinion, is depriving him injuriously of those privileges and advantages to which, in common with his fellow citizens, he has a natural right. That to suffer the civil magistrate to intrude his powers into the field of opinion and to constrain the profession of propagation of principles on the supposition of their ill tendency is a dangerous fallacy, which at once destroys all religious liberty, because he, being of course judge of that tendency, will make his opinions the rule of judgment and approve or condemn the sentiments of others as they shall square with or differ from his own. That was a big passage. There's pieces of it that I got lost in, but most of it I understood, talking about the civil and religious, the union there in having men's opinions, claiming that they're infallible and their opinions to be placed upon those of others. And also bringing up the monetary pain, the pain of the teachers. He didn't specify it that way, but that's what the issue was. The bills they wanted to had a bill that they wanted to pay teachers, the religious teachers. Okay, would somebody else like to read?
I just have a thought, Elaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about this dominion. You read it in the previous paragraph, I believe. Dominion over others. It's dominion over their men's consciences. Didn't say that exactly, but I'm making a comparison to that group of people, those religious people that in the time of Trump, Paula White, they're evangelicals, and their plan, we haven't heard too much about it recently, about dominionism. And what their plan was with that, to take over really, and to force their views on others. I mean, it's the same thing in our modern time. Yeah, that's happening. And it's in the background and it's hidden kind of right now. It was very strong when Trump was there, but we don't hear too much about it unless others have some thought about it.
And that's what I was looking at or thinking about, when we were talking on Wednesday, that that we came to the election 2016 without understanding all of this, right?
Yeah.
And the light shines on it for us to see it. But also it was light, it was rain for the external as well, to see it, for people outside the church to see it, and to be able to perhaps be able to see religious persecution coming by the, and then when you had Trump, I was describing it, and I don't know if it's right to say this, but it's like Trump was a test to the Republican Party, well, to all, but to the Republican Party, who they have their principles, they have their ideology, what they believe in, what they stand on, their platform. And here they are in 2016, 2015, and they don't have a strong candidate, or they have, there's kind of a mishmash, and Trump wipes them all out. And and then the key thing that happened, there's a lot of key things, but the evangelicals supported and backed Trump. And when they endorsed Trump, that should have been a red flag. But by then we're also dumbed down to the union of church and state without even recognizing it. People in the nation, we didn't recognize, they don't recognize it, that the evangelicals are putting their stamp of approval on this man. And then, so that wasn't bad enough. Now you're gonna have 4 years. And I just remember thinking about those 4 years, like, every day, can it get any worse? And I just kept seeing it in my mind as Moses going to Pharaoh saying, let my people go, living out in our life. It's playing out in our life right before our eyes. Is the worse he got, I saw it as if it were Moses saying, come out of there, let my people go, let my people go. And they were getting Trump's people, Trump's supporters were just digging in deeper and deeper and deeper. And then he brings out this hate that was already there, and it just continued to progress and get worse. So I kind of started to see him as a test for the people on the right. And some of them left the Republican Party, but they also have to, when you go back to what Elder Tess taught, and I don't remember which presentation it was, but I know that I happened to do those notes on that one. But when she talked about in the Millerite history, when she was going through the liberal conservative factions in the first Great Awakening, the second Great Awakening, how you had the old school, new school, the old side, new side. So when you get to 1798, you've got this division, and then you come into the Millerite history. And so this Great Awakening brings people out of that conservative side, and now you have the new side, or new school, and that's the time period that Ellen White was going and seeing, hearing Miller preach, and that's who Miller was preaching to, was the new side. And so they had to come out of the conservative side. They had to then come out of the liberal side and join the Millerite movement, and they didn't. So you look at our history, then they had to come out of the right, and then they also have to come out of the left. They have to join this movement.
Yeah, that's really, you put pieces together there. If we read a little more in that sentence, yeah, it really tells the story of where we are today.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, compare and contrast, except it's an enlargement.
Yeah.
Of
Elaine?
Yeah.
started back then.
Yeah,
I
Bob?
just wanted to add a thought. You know, it's easy for some of us to look at the current, you know, presidency and the left side ruling things at the moment, and we think at first glance we think that, oh, all this trouble with dominionism and the Seven Mountains and everything going on with the far right is kind of, you know, been put on hold. And in reality, it hasn't been put on hold at all. It just went from being foisted on everyone into the open where everybody could see it before. And now it has been forced underground. And it's still working. It's still working, maybe even at a more feverish pace than it was when it was out in the open. It's just still working. Its own demise, you know, in the background. It's still going on, and it reminds me of a parallel that I see when it comes to our physical bodies. You know, Ellen White tells us the ministry of healing that a disease is a friend of the body, and it's when the body is being mistreated for a long period of time, then the disease will manifest. It's, you know, to try to right itself.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you're doing something
Yeah.
wrong here. And yet we know that when she says when people treat things with drugs, I'm not saying all drugs are bad and people don't have a use for them, but when you just treat things with drugs and you don't actually change the root problem that's even causing the issue, and you just decide to treat the symptoms with drugs, what happens, she says, is that it goes underground and it continues to still, even though you seem like you're better, it's actually working greater harm, and it comes up as something even more ugly later on. And that's how you see a physical disease manifest, and how when it's not treated properly. And I see what's going on, whether it's far left or far right, you see what's going on, and each side has their platforms, but we already know it's the conservative element, it's the far right that you know had its time in the sun here for a while, and now it has had to go underground, but it's still working. And there's a lot of stuff, if we have the right set of glasses on, we can see how much they're still working and doing things in the background with all the legislation that's popping up all over the country in different states at the state
Yeah.
legislature level, and all these different things. And I know when I talk to my own family and friends that I have back up in the Chicago area, and you try to mention anything about some of this stuff, they don't even know what you're talking about, because they're in their own little world, just like we were a few short years ago.
Yeah. Nice parallel. Put it with medicine and not treating the cause.
Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you, Bob. You know, some of the things you repeated that you shared there is what's happening is that the policies of the right are being enforced in different states, like Texas with abortion. I mean, we see this happening right before our very eyes. What a draconian law that is. And the
LGBT.
right, only the right could step up and, you know, push that, the Governor Abbott down there. So, you know, and it's going to look this way with From Eden to Eden on our line when it comes to LGBT. And I'm just, I mean, I see this coming. It's so, you know, it's not underground, it's working. It's working out there to undermine
I'm gonna be right
and to
back.
push an
Keep going
agenda
for a second.
onto others that don't agree with them.
You guys keep going for a second. I'll be right back. Or pick up on reading when you're done. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to elaborate on it a bit because it's definitely going on in different states, and especially real hardcore Republican states.
Yeah, on all the rights that are being stripped away by, you know, away from LGBTQ community. and them being able to even seek medical treatment and all this different stuff. I mean, like I said, I mean, it appears at first glance, okay, the Democrats are in charge right now, and really, you know, our in our country, if I can just say this, in our country, it's so obvious that yes, if we have a Democratic Party and a Republican Party, and yet the any people who were close to the center have all been purged, and so you've got nothing but extremists on the far right, and got pretty much nothing but extremists on the far left, and each one of them are using the exact same playbook.
Yes,
But
yeah,
whichever one happens to be in charge at the moment, that's the other one sitting there pointing fingers at them, saying, "Look what they're doing here, here, and here." But you could turn around and say the same thing and point the finger back the other way. It's just really, and God's
abs-
making it so
abs-
obvious to a lot of
absolutely.
us and to the rest of the people, because look at what the Levites, where they're at on their line, and where the Nethinims are. God has to allow the stuff to manifest in a way that it can be clearly seen by those that you know are willing to see it.
Absolutely. Good point.
What I find amazing too is you know, I think we've always seen it to some extent, but Trump brought it out even more so. But the Christians have so much hate. I don't. It's like how can you actually believe that that is who God is with the amount of hate that they spew? And even if they don't claim to be a Christian, but they claim that this is a Christian nation and they want all that too. It's the things that they say are astounding, and the things that they do are astounding. There's so much hate. It's amazing that you can call yourself a Christian at all and have such hate.
Yeah, they stand up and say that they're defending what God would have them defend.
Yeah,
And of course, we know too, because of judgments that are falling on the earth, you can say climate changes and all the things going on, you know, with the weather and other things where people are suffering. And so they can say, we've got to do something. It's the immorality. We have to, you know, on behalf of God, we've got to make these things right. So, you know, that thinking, I mean, yeah, it's completely upside down. It's wrong, but it's, you know, it gives them a solid reason so they think as to why they're doing what they're doing. As you say, you know, all they're showing is their hatred of humanity in the name of saying that they are defending God and his ways.
yeah.
It's just incredible. It's a repeat of history.
It looks like Leonard left. Keep him in prayer, you guys. That he can
Yes, will do.
because he's really missed out a lot. Not having been able to join us all this time on Zoom. And I didn't know that he came on, and I was going to try to work with him and get to this homosexuality thing a little bit differently. So keep him in prayer. So would somebody else like to read?
Yeah, where are you at?
Right here. Be it therefore.
Okay. Let's see here. I just gotta make my screen a little bit bigger.
Can I do that for you too? I make it bigger.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be it therefore enacted by the General Assembly that no man shall be compelled or frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be enforced, restrained, molested, or uh, burdened in his body or goods, nor shall otherwise suffer on account of his religious opinion or belief, but that all men shall be free to profess and by argument to maintain their opinion in the matter of religion, and that the same shall in no wise diminish, enlarge, or affect their civil capacities. And we are free to declare and do declare that the rights hereby asserted are of the natural rights of mankind, and that if any act shall be hereafter passed to repeal the present or the narrow or to narrow its operation, such acts will be infringement of the natural right. Such is the origin and the history of the establishment of the religious freedom as a natural right in the United States. For these principles, in many cases, in these very words, have found a place in all the Constitution of the several states of the the several states of the American Union. This also is the origin of religious freedom as a constitutional right under the government of the United States. For while this contest was being carried on in Virginia, steps were being taken towards the formation of a federal government for the several states which had established their independence from Great Britain. This was finally accomplished by the framing of the present national Constitution without the amendments. In this, James Madison did more than any other one, except perhaps George Washington. In the contest in Virginia, by which there have been served the illicit and corrupting connection between religion and the state, had not only the better fitted both Madison and Washington for this work, but had awakened the public mind, and in both points had prepared the way for the formation of a constitution which would pledge the national government to a complete separation from religion. Accordingly, the Constitution, as originally proposed by the convention, declared on the subject that no religion test shall ever be required as a qualification for any office or public trust under the United States. This, however, was not allowed by the people of the states to be sufficient guarantee of religious rights. Several of the states which approved the Constitution as proposed did so only with the proposal of an amendment made fully secure freedom and religion. And with those states which did not approve it, one of their strongest objections was that it did not sufficiently secure religious rights. In the debate on this point in the Virginia Convention, Madison gave the assurance that there is not a shadow of a right in the general government to intermediate with religion. Its least interference with it would be a most flagrant usurpation,
Yeah.
usurpation,
Usurp.
usurpation. I can appeal to my uniform conduct as this subject that I have warmly supported religious freedom. It is better that this security should be defended upon from the general legislature, that from one particular state, a particular state might concur in one religious project. Nevertheless, Virginia, with several of the other states, proposed an amendment on this subject. As the outcome of all these proposed amendments, the first Congress that were ever met under the Constitution framed the First Amendment, and it was adopted as it now reads: Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for the redress of grievances.
I don't think I've ever really saw this the way that I do right now with everything that we've been learning, but shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. So
Yeah.
they can't establish themselves as Christian, right?
So I think if most of the religious leaders would read some of the Constitution and the amendments, I think they'd be surprised.
Well, the issue is what we've learned about the Bible and also with the Constitution for the external, but it's how they read. And
Right.
and they read it and it's how they interpret it. And that's what we learned about our history. It's a matter of how they interpret it. It's not and that's why they interpret it as a Christian nation, as a Christian document. And it's like right there, no, they shall make no law respecting and establish. So you cannot establish this nation, a religion in this nation. You cannot declare this nation of a particular religion. That's the way I'm understanding that with everything that we've been learning.
And also
You cannot establish a religion in the United States.
they also make God in their own image.
Yeah. And you can't prohibit the free exercise thereof.
Yeah. This was in 1789, and in the last year of Washington's presidency, 1797, he was and signed with his own hand a treaty in which it declared that the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on a Christian religion. Not being in any sense founded on a Christian religion, it is evident that it is not in any sense founded on a religion at all. And this statement is as certainly as a part of the supreme law of the nation as is any part of the Constitution. As Article 6 plainly declares, the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in per
Pursuance. Pursuance.
pursuance, that's a legal term, pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or the laws of any states to the contrary notwithstanding. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I like how he hammers the point. Repeat
Yeah.
it. It's like you didn't get it. So let me say it again. So he reads what Washington says and then he says it over and over again.
Okay. Thus, the natural right of mankind to freedom from government interference or dictation in matters of religion was made a constitutional right under the government of the United States, and thus have the people of the United States expressed in the supreme law of their land, well, that the government of the United States is and of right ought to be free and independent of all ecclesiastical or religious connection, interference, or control. Wow, there it is right there again.
Yeah.
It's repeat and enlarge
Yeah.
in the previous.
And these are arguments. Susan put in there that statement that I honed in on was exactly what they did with DOMA. We have to be able to understand these arguments because these are the arguments that we'll be giving against in favor of equality.
Yeah, it's starting to heat up out there from what I can see, just from the chatter that you see on like on YouTube and on the news, and just the general chatter that you hear on the news broadcasts as well, CNN and all that.
I'm going to mark it done there since we're getting ready to start another section.
Hmm.
To not, so does anybody have any comments? And we understand from the presentations that Elder Parmenter, how he laid out the Supreme Court is the highest authority in the nation, not the president. And that's what I thought was interesting, keeping that in mind when I was reading that other document, the one that I just read a piece of on that case in 1989. That the Supreme Court had already said, I want to say it was Gorsuch, I can't remember, but said that people ought to just get thicker skin and not get offended. That even though praying in school events might offend you, it doesn't cause you harm. And she ought to just get thicker skin. But the Supreme Court was in favor. I mean, that was one of the justices that said that. And that's totally against what we're just reading here, to allow prayer in public school. And the Christians are absolutely blind to this, because I can tell you that I thought it was wrong to deny Christians the right to be able to do what they wanted to do, not understanding that it excludes another when you do that, and where it leads from cause to effect.
They used to teach that at the Sac Central, the SDA church. They would bring in guests and all that. they would talk about religious rights and all that.
Yeah. Repudiating, yeah, the in Texas, yeah, they're repudiating the Constitution, yeah. And Adventism is absolutely blind to all this. Really sad. Really sad. Well, anybody else, any comments or thoughts they want to add?
It's pretty good to go over these kinds of facts because like I forget who was saying that earlier, that these are the kind of arguments that the opposition is going to have and throw at us.
Yes. Yes, and Susan put in there that it was an atheist that removed prayer in school, Madeline Murray O'Hara. And I was, when you wrote that, I was thinking about, oh, and I know that guy's name, I'm drawing a blank now. He was in Elk Grove where I used to live. And he was an atheist. Somebody probably knows his name. I'm just drawing a blank. We all probably heard it. But he went all the way to Supreme Court too, to fight to have, I think he was fighting to have In God We Trust taken out of the school. And that was all, it was all in this period of time, after 9/11, when the battle came to put it, Nadeau, I think was his name, Nadeau. Does that sound familiar? But he was actually from Elk Grove, where I used to live. He was an atheist, and he was divorced, and his ex-wife was Christian. And I think they had a daughter, and he fought because he didn't want his daughter to have the offense of Christianity placed upon her. So yeah, we need to know these arguments. We need to know the separation of church and state and understand the Constitution and how they are repudiating the Constitution, and learn how to fight this battle.
I'd like to add a thought.
Uh-huh.
If you look at the fact that one of the Supreme Court justices was saying we just have to get thicker skin.
Yeah,
Again, realizing we have to understand the physical before you can understand the spiritual. Physically, if your skin is going to get thicker, it's because it's being abused in some way, and it's getting calloused over, and it's a way for the body to protect itself. And so, I mean, that doesn't make it right, as was already been pointed out. And Penny just showed me, I'm not sure what document she's looking at, but she just showed me here something on her phone that says that the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas says that the court, quote, may have become the most dangerous branch of government, end quote.
say that again.
That this article that Penny has that I'm holding in her phone, I'm just looking at one little paragraph, and it says that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas says that the court, referring to the Supreme Court, quote, may have become the most dangerous branch of government, end quote.
Oh, Clarence Thomas said that?
Yep.
But he's saying it about the liberals then, right?
He's just seeing that it's dangerous, the ground that they're on.
Did Penny post that in where we can all look at it? And did she post it in WhatsApp?
Penny said she's going to post it.
Okay.
So everybody can see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Because I mean, the liberal side calls the conservative side dangerous and vice versa. And he's a conservative.
It still works.
He may be a conservative with a conscience.
You think? That's why I want to read what she's reading. Because
Yeah, I would too, because that's a surprising statement, but that's really interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
It's been posted now.
Okay, great. I'll check it out when we get done here. So I put in there, it was Newdow was his name, Supreme Court government opinion. It was Newdow was his name. And when was it? The Elk Grove Unified School District. That's where my kids went to school through their whole time. It was 2004. Argued March 24th and decided June 14th. Oh, it had to do with the Pledge of Allegiance. If anybody pulled that up. Petitioner school district requires each elementary school class to recite daily the Pledge of Allegiance. Respondent Newdow's, he wanted under God taken out of there. Respondent Newdow's daughter participates in this exercise. Newdow, an atheist, filed suit alleging that because the pledge contains the words under God, it constitutes religious indoctrination of his child in violation of the establishment and free exercise clauses. He also alleged that he had standing to sue on his own behalf and on behalf of his daughter as next friend. The magistrate judge concluded that the pledge is constitutional, and the district court agreed and dismissed the complaint. The Ninth Circuit Court reversed, holding that Newdow has standing as a parent to challenge a practice that interferes with his right to direct his daughter's religious education, and that the school district's policy violates the establishment clause. Sandra banning the child's mother then filed a motion to intervene or dismiss, declaring inter alia that she had exclusive legal custody under a state court order, and that as her daughter's sole legal custodian, she felt it was not in the child's interest to be a party to Newdow's suit. I know there was a separation and divorce issue going on there. So, okay.
We know how a nation speaks is through its laws, and the legislative branch makes the laws. The judicial branch goes ahead and interprets those laws. And then the only thing the executive branch does is enforce those laws.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, I praise God for being where we're at today. And like I said, ask you guys keep Leonard in prayer that he can handle where we're headed, what we're teaching. And I don't know if anybody else heard too, because I don't think I said it when he was here with us last week, but he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Bob, would you like to close us in prayer?
Okay. Dear Lord in heaven, we thank you for your tender mercies to us and for giving us the eye salve that we can see the truth in what's been going on, not just in our current history, but what's been going on, looking at things with the right lens to be able to see the history, to see the repeat of history, and see the direction that everything is going here at the end of time. And Father, we thank you for your tender mercies to us, for giving us the Sabbath, not only that we can, worship you in spirit and in truth, but part of worshiping you is continuing to develop and grow our relationships with one another. And Lord, I just thank you for that understanding. Be with everyone in the movement, those who are struggling and are trying to understand the concepts, and be with all the Nethinims and the Levites, all your children around the globe. Lord, I pray you would help us to really put our lives in order and put your kingdom first of all of our temporal needs. And that if there's a way for this planet to be wrapped up sooner than later, that we can participate in your second coming happening sooner than later, because of all the suffering that's going on. Lord, I pray for all those that are still being terribly repressed and mistreated, whether it's over gender or race or anything, Father. And Lord, I pray that you would just help each one of us. Thank you for your holy angels and for the work they're doing behind the scenes. And we thank you for all this, and we ask it in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.